Welcome to Virtual Lunch in the Exhibit Marketers Cafe. This is our 10th weekly lunch. Can you believe it? It's like, wow. Doesn't seem like it's been going that long, but to those of you that have been here as regulars, welcome back. Thank you for joining us on Tuesdays. And if this happens to be your first time in Virtual Lunch, welcome to you as well. So we're happy to have you here and glad that we can provide this as a service and a community where people can participate. So I'm going to go ahead and actually this week, a couple of things before I put up a question, because I want to give everybody time to get on. There is a stock photo service called Unsplash, which, if you haven't heard of it, is very cool, and it's free. I mean, all the photos are free. So if you need photos for your website or social media posts or whatever, it's a great place to go and get photos. And Alan, my husband, is behind the scenes. He's going to put that link up here in just a minute. But anyway, so they've curated a special list of just travel photos, and these are really, really cool. I mean, they're some of them are kind of the cliche travel photos, but some of them are really cool. Like there was one I was actually going to show it, and it was too big to upload on here, but it's ice, like close-ups of ice in Russia, and then they had like all kinds of cool things. There was a really cool cloud photo in Chile that had like this swirling cloud above a mountaintop and stuff. But anyway, if you are looking for some photos, or just if you want something new on your your background on your computer desktop, it's if you're needing some inspiration as far as travel, since we're not really going anywhere these days. But anyway, so that's a really cool resource. And so anyway, we're going to focus today. The reason I wanted to tell you about that, we're going to focus a little bit more here in a minute about talking about travel and how what travel is going to look like when we get it restarted again. But I want to share a few other links with you first. We're going to switch over here. Global Exhibitions Day is coming up next week on the 3rd, on June 3rd. And so I'm going to put up let's do this first. There we go. Whoops. Too many layers. There we go. Okay. So here is some information about Global Exhibitions Day coming up next week. Obviously, this year it's going to be all online, but there's going to be activities that take place around the globe, in different countries, to promote, the importance of our industry. So you've got the link there, but I'll go ahead and put this up as well, so that you've got the actual link there in the comments that you can click on. But there's also on that site, if you go to this link, this specific link here, rather than just the generic Global Exhibitions Day, if you go here, there's a link to a toolkit that you can download, get some, like the graphic that I just showed you, and some different things that you can use to post in social media or whatever. So there's some good resources there. Also, PSAV, the audiovisual company, has put out a, what do they call it? The MeetSAFE guidelines. So it was kind of interesting to look at these. If you're an event organizer and you're going to have to think about your room sets and your AV, or even if you're an exhibitor and you're looking at, some different meetings, maybe internally for your company or whatever, there's some really good recommendations and some things to think about. So it was kind of interesting because they give examples of different room sets. And so some of the different things are going to be, obviously taking a room that would have been set for 50 and maybe setting it for 12 to 15 people instead because of the social distancing. but there's also the possibility of having multiple rooms set, again, spaced out on-site rooms, venue, and having them spaced out, but then having it streamed, having one presentation streamed into 2 or 3 different rooms, or even different venues, different sites. Maybe now that's going to be the thing. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know how things are going to look once we get started again. But one possibility could be having like regional hubs where people could, because that's one of the things that the experts are saying is a lot of people are not going to feel safe flying. I feel sorry for the airlines, but it's just kind of a fact that a lot of people aren't too excited, myself included, about hopping on a plane and being stuck for 3 hours with a bunch of strangers that you don't know how safe they are, or how responsible they are, I should say. Kind of going back to, you probably have seen the online video here in Missouri. There were a lot of not so bright people that gathered over the weekend at a pool party at Lake of the Ozarks, and the video's gone viral. Now, a lot of the regions around here, St. Louis especially, because they've had so many cases, they're asking anybody who was at the lake this weekend to self-quarantine for 14 days. So, we'll see how that goes. But anyway, so as far as people not wanting to hop on planes, there may end up being regional meetings. And so like maybe there'll be smaller meetings. And so people may be gathering in 4 or 5 different places across the country. And then the presentations, the talks, the keynotes, whatever, will be streamed into all of those different locations. This is not an unusual kind of setup when you think about it. A lot of the like big name speakers, I know Zig Ziglar, a lot of those kind of guys used to do those kinds of things where they would have one day. John Maxwell, I know, does this too, where they have one day. And it's like people gather in stadiums and auditoriums across the country, and they broadcast the same thing, simulcast into all of these different venues. So that could be a new look for the meetings industry. Who knows? But anyway, so let's see. So here is the PSAV link. But anyway, so they had some interesting points there. So I thought that might be a helpful link for you as well. And also, I don't have a link for this, but I think it was last week. Everything's kind of running together now since I did the virtual summit last week as well, so which we'll talk about in a minute. But the Inn at Little Washington, we had talked about how they're going to put mannequins at the empty tables in their restaurant. Well, now the latest thing that they're going to do is the masks that all the servers wear. They're going to have Marilyn Monroe lips for all the girls and George Washington's face for all the guys. So, you got to have some fun with this. It's like, it's gonna be awkward. It's gonna be weird for a while, and so we might as well all just do something fun with it. So, if you're gonna have masks for everybody at your company, all your booth staffers to wear at an event, figure out something that's kind of fun and quirky, different, makes you stand out in a good way, or in a memorable way, I guess I could say. Like Marilyn Monroe lips. But anyway, so I just wanted to kind of go through some of those quick little things first, and then kind of flip over and talk a little bit more about the travel aspect. Event Manager Blog did an article, How Likely Are Attendees to Travel? Alan's going to put that link up next. But the whole idea of 14-day quarantines, like I mentioned, with all the partiers at the lake, that's kind of a common thing now. You're especially seeing like a lot of different countries as they start to reopen. They're telling people anybody coming into the country has to quarantine for 14 days, which makes for very interesting if you've got, an attendee coming from another country and they're having to quarantine for 14 days. Doesn't really help with them going to an event, right? So I think we're probably not going to see international travelers for a while, coming into events, partly just because people are skittish and not wanting to travel internationally. And then there's the fear of getting stuck somewhere. but it's just logistically, it's just not going to be practical for a while. So, so you've got that issue. You've got, oh, and another part of the article, another statistic they shared was that 2/3 of Americans plan to travel by car with less than a 100-mile trip. So that goes back to what I was talking about is we might have to do, you know, we're doing virtual right now, and that's not going to go away anytime soon. But, you know, we might have to do more regional drive-in meetings because people, like I said, are not wanting to hop on planes. They're maybe willing to travel, but they're not willing to travel very far. So that could be something that affects the attendance at events. Speaking of virtual, I'm going to go back here and put up a quote from last week's virtual event, Trailblazer Summit, which, by the way, is still open. You can watch the replays. We'll share that link in just a minute. But here's a quote from one of our speakers, Daniel McKinnon from Modex 365, said that we think this is what the future is going to look like. Live events will not go away, but we need to find things that can provide additional value and add on and support live events. So like I said, it's not going to be something that, you know, events are going to go away, but definitely the virtual component is going to need to stay for a while. So there's that link. If you haven't had a chance to listen to those replays, or if you didn't attend last week live for the virtual event Trailblazer Summit, here's the link. You can go register and still get access to all of that for free. But yeah, it's going to continue to be an important part. Even if once we start moving back into having live events, there's still going to be a lot of people that are not going to want to travel. So that's going to be really important to include that virtual component. All right, so the next thing is, Alan, I'll have you put up the MGM 7-point safety plan. It's been really interesting to see the hotels, the different hotel chains and hotel conglomerates come out with their own plans. We had shared a few weeks back that Hilton and Marriott and the Wynn Resort in had all put out their plans. Well, now MGM has put out their plan, which, by the way, is interesting that MGM sounds like in Vegas is going to reopen their hotels in stages. So the last I heard was that the first to open will likely be New York, and Bellagio. So they're going to kind of space them out up and down the strip. So those two may be the first to open, and then they'll open in phases. It's also interesting to note that ASAE and Exhibitor Live were both scheduled at Mandalay in August. They've both now canceled, which leads us to believe, based on things that have come through the news, both, what do I want to say, both straightforward and through the grapevine, that Mandalay will not be one of the earliest venues to open. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. But anyway, here is their 7-point safety plan, which includes things like, you know, temperature checks for the employees. They're going to have more medical staff on hand at the venues. Employees will have mandatory PPE, and guests are strongly encouraged. They're not forcing people to wear masks, but they're highly recommending it, especially in certain areas. They're going to find new ways to manage their air quality and HVAC system, because that's something that a lot of people are nervous about, is that recirculating air, especially since, as we all know, when we go to Vegas, sometimes we're not outside the hotel for 3 days. So you want good quality air while you're there. It's also interesting. They're going to switch to digital check-in, where you can use your smartphone, or if you don't want to do that, they're going to have like key stations where you can key code or code your own keys there on site, trying to eliminate the lines at the front desk as much as possible. So it'll be interesting to see how well that goes over. They're going to remove all the collateral in the room. So things like pens and the little notepad by the phone and the little, you know, hotels that still have, I don't know how many still have the little mini shampoos and stuff like that. All that stuff's going to go away. You know, just the magnitude of things that they have to think about. You know, I I've confessed before, I'm somewhat of a germaphobe, so I don't like to handle the remote control or the phone in a hotel room. But now even things like, the thermostat on the wall, they're going to have to sanitize that. Rooms will be rotated between guests. So like, they'll clean the room, but maybe they'll leave it empty for, I don't know, they didn't really say, but like 24 hours or 48 hours or however long they deem necessary before they rent to the next guest. So it's going to obviously affect the capacity of the hotels. Not that we expect events to be a sellout again anytime soon, but that's going to be another factor, is that depending on how many other events are going on in the same facility or the same area at the same time, it's going to affect the capacity of the hotels. Another one that I thought was interesting, in the restaurants there at MGM anyway, they're going to have digital menus so that you can just scan with your phone the QR code and it'll pop up the menu on your phone, because menus, the good old, menu in a plastic cover, can't use those right now either. So they're either going to have to go to paper takeout menus that are, take it and keep it, or toss it, recycle, whatever. Yeah. So, lots of different things. There's also the, okay, I never can remember. I should have written it down. The American Hotel and Lodging Association, I believe, AHLA. Alan, go ahead and put that link up. They also have come up with what they call the safe stay guidelines. And this is for a lot of different hotel brands that have all come together. So a lot of the names, the household name hotel brands are on this plan. So they also have some guidelines. So we'll put that link up in just a little bit. Oh, on the subject of PPE, and we were just talking about MGM in Vegas. McCarran Airport is the first airport to actually have vending machines where you can buy PPE. So you can buy your disposable masks, you can buy little bottles of hand sanitizer. So they have these vending machines at a couple places throughout McCarran Airport. So, only in Vegas. Well, no, I can't say that. That probably won't be something that stays in Vegas, but it is interesting that Vegas does tend to be the leader a lot of times of different trends. So anyway, so there's the link to read about the AHLA, and all of these, when you go to the links, you'll see ways that you can actually download the PDF of the full report. And, I know, again, a lot of them are kind of similar and stuff, but it really is interesting to read and see the different things. And it also gives us an idea of some of the things that we need to be thinking about, especially as far as it comes to the trade show floor itself, of what are some of the things. One thing I saw, and I've read so many different places, I don't remember where it was, but they were talking about, anything that people might pick up has to be sanitized. So you got to think about that in your booth. If you've got any kind of demos or something that somebody might pick up and handle, how are you going to keep all those sanitized in between visitors? Or is it going to be something where you're going to have to keep it under glass, have it under a little plexi cover or something. And so it's a look, don't touch, which kind of, for a lot of exhibitors, that kind of defeats the purpose. So anyway, okay. So Alan, do we have that link for McCarran? I think I had that in there. We can put that up. Okay, let's see. What else do I have here? Oh, here we go. So this was a link to see those vending machines at the McCarran Airport in Vegas. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is that we talked before how shows had restarted in some Asian countries. Now Germany is getting things restarted. So first off, I've got a link for the IFA show in Berlin is scheduled to go on in September, but it's going to be an invite-only show. And now this is a show that's kind of in the vein of CES. It's a tech show. And I know this is a really long link, but anyway, it's a tech show. And so imagine they're going to set it up so that it's limited to 1,000 guests per event. So they're going to have like different events or different venues, I guess. And it's going to be limited for each event. And then otherwise it will be streamed virtually. So, again, kind of back to what I was talking about, that may be the new mode of having smaller events and then streaming them to other locations as well. So that's the article about the IFA show. And then also I'll have you put up the RIFEL, I guess it would be how you would say RIFEL recommendations plan for Germany. This one is very detailed and on some levels a bit extreme. But it does really make you wonder how much of this is going to carry over. Keep in mind, this is for a European country. These are, country where people are traveling from country to country and they're all really close. So they may be being a little bit more cautious, but it does make you wonder how much some of these kinds of things are going to carry over for the American market as well. So, do we have that link? I don't see that up there yet. But anyway, so so I do recommend, again, this one is an actual PDF. But I do recommend going and taking a look at this, even if it's not something, even if you don't ever do an event in Germany, I think it's a really good reference point to see what is happening in Europe, how the first countries are starting to open up and the precedents that are being set and kind of being prepared. I mean, we don't know exactly what it's going to look like here in the States, but if we kind of start watching the countries that are opening up first and kind of start preparing ourselves for how things might have to operate here in our country, and again, it's going to vary somewhat here, possibly even from state to state. So, but this is a good reference point to look at. And then if you are an event planner, of course, right now, hotels and convention centers and everybody is very happy to welcome anybody back. So they're being rather accommodating. There's a lot of incentives that they're offering to planners, things like waiving attrition, writing in zero risk clauses. It's kind of interesting because I expected that, venues would not be as accommodating afterwards because they're skittish and they don't want it too easy for people to cancel. But I think they're so happy to have anybody willing to take a chance that they're being very accommodating right now. Now, how long this will last, I don't know. But anyway, and then the other thing that in this article you'll see is they're talking about having like safe breaks and team building experiences and things like that. And some of the creative things that some different venues are doing. And this one is just profiling specific venues. But I believe, if I understand right, that this is going to be an ongoing link that they're going to add to with other venues and other offers that hotels and facilities are doing. So anyway, it's going to be very interesting to watch how things evolve as we go forward. I do want to put up one other link, Alan, the StreamYard link. I've had people asking about how we do the broadcast, both for this and then also last week for the virtual event Trailblazer Summit. And I'm using a service called StreamYard. And so I just want to put this link up because there is a special deal where if you use my referral link, you can get $10 off of one of their paid plans. So, for like your first month. So anyway, I just wanted to give you that link in case you're interested and you like how we've got the different banners and the comments that pop up on the screen and all that. So I wanted to share that. But anyway, go ahead, share if you have any thoughts or questions in the comments about, anything you've heard as far as how travel is evolving. Have you traveled? I mean, we haven't. The extent of our travel was, we did this weekend. We drove out to the airport, which is only about 15 minutes from our house, but we drove out. It was quite the surreal thing because there's like planes parked along the runway for one of the runways for just like as far as you can see. So that was weird. And then to be out there on a Sunday afternoon in the middle of a holiday weekend, and there were like 3 cars parked, in the circle. So, yeah, it was weird. So, anyway, but that's where we're at right now. Travel is evolving. Life is evolving. People are starting to go back to work. Some people, not a lot of us in the trade show business, unfortunately, but some people are starting to go back to work, especially now since the holiday weekend is over. But anyway, I want to thank you again. I know that there's a lot of things going on. I appreciate you spending time with us in the virtual lunch every Tuesday. I'm going to keep doing it for a little while longer. Just, let me know if there's specific topics you want to cover, things you want to talk about. Goodness knows there's no shortage of news to go over each week. So I'm happy to continue to bring you topics and resources that can be of help. And, please reach out to me if you have a specific topic that you want to know more about, something you'd like me to research. I'm happy to do that. And we will see you next Tuesday for another virtual lunch in the Exhibit Marketers Cafe. So have a great week and we'll see you then. Bye.